There is a mistake that many of us make without realizing it, which can embitter our souls and have eternal consequences. Today, I want to share with you an experience of great wisdom, a direct message from Jesus about this very mistake. Welcome to the channel, where we explore profound experiences that challenge our understanding of life and eternity. Through stories of redemption, divine encounters, and revelatory moments, we explore the mystery of God's grace. I invite you to subscribe to the channel now so you don't miss any videos. Tell us in the comments where you watch us from. Let's build this incredible community of God. Don't forget to like us to support us, and let's go. My name is Jake, and the experience I'm about to share completely changed the course of my life. What started as a regular day quickly turned into something extraordinary when I came face to face with death and crossed over to the other side. In that brief moment, I saw things that were beyond my wildest imagination and met someone who would change everything for me. That someone was Jesus. He revealed to me profound truths about life, including a startling new perspective on something I once thought was harmless: masturbation. This journey left me humbled and deeply awake to a new reality. I feel compelled to share what I learned in hopes it might shine a light on something many struggle with, but are often too afraid to talk about. Before my life-changing experience, I had never really thought about what lay beyond the physical world. My daily routine was filled with work, constant distractions, and the typical busyness of modern life. Like most people, I struggled with stress, loneliness, and temptations that I often gave into, but I never took the time to seriously question any of my actions. Masturbation was one of those habits I just accepted. It seemed like a harmless, everyday thing, something that everyone did, so I never considered it to be a real issue. Whenever I felt overwhelmed or emotionally drained, I'd turn to it, convincing myself that it was just a way to unwind, a quick escape. But even as I indulged, there was always a subtle sense of emptiness that followed, a feeling I couldn't shake or fully understand. It was like I was searching for something more, but never really finding it. One evening, everything changed. I was sitting alone in my apartment after a long day at work, feeling exhausted and drained. I hadn't realized how much I'd been neglecting my health, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Suddenly, I felt a sharp pain in my chest. Within seconds, I collapsed, my vision blurred, and a wave of fear washed over me as I realized something was terribly wrong. I couldn't catch my breath, and my heart was racing uncontrollably. In that moment, all I could feel was panic, as though everything around me was slipping away. My body felt like it was giving up. And then, in an instant, everything went silent. The sounds of the world around me, the rush of my own heartbeat, faded into nothing. I could no longer hear anything. For a moment, I thought I was dead. I had no idea what was happening, but I knew I wasn't in control. It was as if I was floating above myself, watching from a distance as the paramedics rushed into my apartment. I saw them desperately trying to revive me. It was a surreal experience, seeing my lifeless body while I felt detached from it. There was no pain, no fear, just an overwhelming sense of calm. And then I felt a strange pull, like something was drawing me toward it. A light, distant yet warm, seemed to beckon me. It wasn't like anything I had ever seen before. The light wasn't harsh, but inviting, filled with love that was so strong. It felt like it was pulling me in without me having to move. As I was drawn closer to the light, everything around me began to shift. The air felt different, lighter, purer, almost weightless. It was as if the very atmosphere was filled with something I couldn't describe but understood deeply: love. And then, suddenly, I passed through what felt like a veil, and I was transported to a place that was beyond beautiful. Everything around me seemed to glow, radiating peace and purity. It wasn't like anything I had ever seen or felt before. The overwhelming sense of love I experienced was unlike anything on earth. I felt free, unburdened, and at complete peace. But I wasn't alone. Standing before me was a presence powerful yet gentle. It was clear who this was. I knew instantly it was Jesus. His presence was unlike any other, so full of warmth and compassion and yet so powerful. His eyes met mine, and in that instant I felt a love so deep, so unconditional, that it pierced right through me. I felt completely seen, completely known, and yet, for the first time, fully accepted. In that moment, my entire life flashed before my eyes. Every decision, every moment, every hidden thought played out in vivid detail. I saw how my actions, no matter how small, had affected my soul, shaping me in ways I hadn't realized. And then Jesus spoke to me, not with words, but in a way that went deeper than anything I had ever experienced. I understood without a doubt what he was showing me. My life, every choice, every struggle, even the things I thought I had hidden, was laid bare before me. But this wasn't a moment of judgment. It wasn't about condemnation. It was about understanding. He didn't show me these things to make me feel guilty. He showed me the truth so I could see where I had gone astray, where I had failed to align my life with what truly mattered. I felt sorrow, not shame, but sorrow for the times I had hurt others, for the times I had neglected my spiritual well-being. And that's when something unexpected happened. Jesus addressed something I had never imagined. He spoke to me about my habit of masturbation, and in an instant I understood how it had affected me on a deeper level than I had ever realized. I had always thought of masturbation as something harmless, even a normal part of life. But in that moment, Jesus revealed to me how it had been creating barriers between me and God. It wasn't just about the physical act, it was about the deeper effect it had on my spirit. It had filled my soul with guilt, with distance, and a sense of separation that I had never fully understood. Jesus didn't condemn me for it. He didn't scold me. Instead, I felt him communicate with me in a way that spoke directly to my heart. You sought comfort in the wrong place. He showed me that true fulfillment comes only from his love, not from fleeting distractions. At that moment, I was overwhelmed. But rather than feeling rejected, I felt an invitation, a chance to change, to redirect my life towards something far more fulfilling. I felt a peace wash over me, a peace that erased all my earthly worries, doubts, and fears. The light that surrounded me wasn't just something I saw, it was something I felt. It embraced me, filling every part of my being with a love so pure and profound that I couldn't even begin to describe it. As I stood there in the overwhelming light, I began to feel a deeper understanding, like the pieces of a puzzle falling into place. It wasn't just a fleeting feeling of peace. It was as if the very essence of my being was being transformed. I was no longer tethered to the worries and fears that had once consumed me. The heaviness I had carried with me, my doubts, my regrets, the shame I had buried deep down, seemed to melt away. The light around me wasn't just bright. It held wisdom, knowledge, and clarity that touched my soul in ways I had never known possible. Everything that had once confused me now seemed so clear. Questions I had struggled with all my life were suddenly answered. It was as if the light was communicating directly with my soul, showing me what I needed to understand without the need for words. I realized with a profound sense of relief that this was not just a place of peace, but a place of profound truth. I felt like I was being shown the deepest parts of myself, the good, the bad, and everything in between, so that I could truly understand who I was and who I was meant to be. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, I became aware of a presence beside me. The light parted slightly, and there he was, Jesus. His presence was unlike anything I had ever encountered. He wasn't just a figure. He was a force of unconditional love, compassion, and understanding. His gaze met mine, and I knew without a doubt that he saw everything about me. Every flaw, every failure, every secret I had kept hidden, it was all laid bare. And yet, there was no condemnation. There was no anger, no judgment, only love, only acceptance. As I stood in his presence, I could feel something shift within me. I was no longer just a spectator of my own life. I was reliving it, experiencing it all again from an entirely new perspective. Every moment, every choice, every word I had ever spoken, it all played out in vivid detail, like a movie that I was both watching and living. But it wasn't just a passive experience. I felt what others had felt because of my actions. The joy I had brought to some, the pain I had caused to others. I felt the weight of both the good and the bad decisions I had made, and for the first time, I truly understood how deeply my choices affected the people around me. Jesus didn't make me relive these moments to punish me, but to help me see. He was guiding me through this review of my life, showing me where I had gone wrong, where I could have chosen differently, and where I had ignored the things that truly mattered. The most unexpected moment came when we revisited my struggles with self-pleasure. I had always thought it was harmless, something everyone did, but now, as I saw it through his eyes, I realized how it had affected my soul on a deeper level. Every time I indulged, I could see the subtle dimming of my inner light, the quiet impact it had on my spiritual connection. It wasn't just the act itself, it was what it represented. It was a form of escape, a reliance on something temporary rather than turning to God for comfort. I understood how this habit had created a pattern in my life, one that kept me from seeking fulfillment in the right place, in God's love. I felt a deep regret for not realizing this sooner, for not seeing how much it had kept me distant from my true spiritual path. As the realization settled in, I felt a deep sense of regret, not out of shame, but out of a desire to change. I saw how much my choices had affected my relationship with God and with others. The guilt was not meant to drag me down. It was meant to awaken me, to call me to a higher understanding. Jesus wasn't there to make me feel worthless. On the contrary, he was there to show me the path to freedom, to remind me that it wasn't too late to change, to truly align my life with God's purpose. The light that surrounded me wasn't just peace, it was wisdom, understanding, and the clarity I had longed for, but never knew how to seek. As I stood there, I realized that my past, my mistakes, my struggles, they didn't define me. I wasn't trapped in a cycle of guilt or shame. I'd been given an opportunity to break free, to start fresh, and to move forward with a heart renewed by love. I felt Jesus reach out his hand, and in that moment I knew I was ready to take the next step in my journey, to leave behind the things that had held me back and embrace the freedom he was offering me. In the moments that followed, I felt myself being drawn closer to the light, but this time it wasn't just about the feeling of peace. It was about understanding. I understood that true spiritual fulfillment wasn't about seeking comfort in temporary distractions or pleasures, but in aligning my heart with God's will. The realization hit me hard, but it was freeing. For the first time, I saw that the emptiness I had been trying to fill was never going to be filled by anything other than God's love. The temporary fixes I had sought all my life, whether it was masturbation, material possessions, or distractions, were just masks for a deeper longing. And now, I knew the truth. I felt a sense of profound gratitude, as if I had been given a new perspective on life, a fresh start that wasn't about following rules, but about pursuing a deeper, more meaningful connection with God. It wasn't just about stopping certain behaviors, it was about a complete transformation of the heart. Jesus showed me that true purity wasn't a matter of external actions, but the intention behind them. The habits I had formed were rooted in a deeper search for something that only God could provide. He helped me see that the struggle wasn't in the act itself, but in the mindset that led to it. This new understanding of purity was not about perfection, but about seeking God first, surrendering my desires to Him, and allowing His strength to work through me. As I continued to stand in His presence, I felt the weight of my past mistakes begin to lift. It wasn't just a feeling of forgiveness, it was an overwhelming sense of release. Jesus didn't look at me with disappointment as I had feared. Instead, He looked at me with love that was beyond my understanding. I felt like He saw me not for who I had been, but for who I could become. In that moment, I understood the true meaning of grace. It wasn't about earning his love through good behavior or perfect actions. It was about accepting his love as it was, unconditionally, and allowing it to transform me from the inside out. And then, something else happened. As I reflected on everything Jesus had shown me, I realized that his love wasn't just for me, it was for everyone. There were so many people out there just like me, carrying burdens of guilt, shame, and regret. I saw how many of us had allowed our mistakes to define us, thinking we were unworthy of love or redemption. But in that moment, I realized that no one is beyond his reach. Jesus wasn't offering me forgiveness just for my own sake. He was offering it for everyone, for anyone who would accept it. As I continued to reflect on everything I had learned, I felt a deep sense of purpose awakening within me. I wasn't just having this experience for myself. It was clear that I had been shown these truths to help others, to share what I had learned with those who were struggling, who felt lost or trapped by their own mistakes. Jesus had opened my eyes to a reality that many never fully see, and it was now my mission to help others understand that they too could be free. I realized that my story wasn't just for me. It was for anyone who had ever felt weighed down by guilt or shame. I knew that I couldn't keep this experience to myself. As daunting as it seemed, I felt a sense of urgency to share what I had been shown. My past didn't define me anymore, and I wanted others to know that their past didn't have to define them either. Jesus had given me a new life, and I was meant to pass that message of hope on to others. It wasn't about being perfect, it was about being willing to change and accepting his love. When I finally returned to my body, it was as if I had been thrust back into a world I no longer recognized. The experience I had just had felt so vivid, so real, that everything around me now seemed dull by comparison. The weight of the world's distractions, the noise, the constant rush, it all felt trivial. I had seen the other side, and I knew that there was more to life than what we experience day to day. But as I struggled to process everything, I also realized something else. Change wouldn't come overnight. It wasn't going to be easy to shift back into my old life, to break free from the habits and thoughts that had held me captive for so long. But I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't go back to the way things were. My body ached, my mind felt overwhelmed, and it was hard to put into words what I had just experienced. But deep inside, I knew I had been given a new purpose. It wasn't just about me anymore. It was about sharing the love and grace that I had felt and helping others break free from the same struggles. I started small, sharing with a few close friends and family members, but to my surprise, many of them had been struggling with the same issues. They too felt trapped in cycles of guilt and shame, too afraid to talk about it. And as I shared what I had learned, I saw the relief in their eyes, the hope that had been reignited within them. As I continued to share my story, I began to realize something important. My mission wasn't just about my own healing. It was about helping others heal too. The more I spoke about my experience, the more I saw how many people were suffering in silence. They felt like they were alone in their struggles, like they were unworthy of God's love and forgiveness. But Jesus had shown me that no one is beyond redemption. No matter how far gone we may feel, his love is always available, and all it takes is a step toward him. I began to feel more confident in sharing my story, knowing that if it could help even one person find freedom from their own burdens, it would be worth it. And as I continued on this path, I saw changes, not just in myself, but in those around me. My friends and family began to notice a difference in me. I was no longer weighed down by the guilt and shame that had held me captive for so long. I felt lighter, more at peace, and more aligned with my purpose. As the days went on, I kept thinking about everything I had experienced. Life still had its challenges, of course. There were still moments where the world felt chaotic, and the temptation to slip back into old habits was always there. But you know what? I had this newfound strength inside me, a clarity I never knew I had. It wasn't about being perfect or never stumbling again, but about staying focused on what truly mattered. I turned to prayer and meditation instead of reaching for distractions. I found peace in God's word, and in that peace I began to feel healing. There were tough days, don't get me wrong, days when I felt weak or frustrated. But every time I felt that pull to go back to old ways, I reminded myself of the light I had seen, of the love that surrounded me, and the grace that was so freely given. It wasn't about having all the answers or fixing everything all at once. It was about taking small steps forward, trusting that each day brought a new chance to be better. And you know what? Over time, I did feel the change, not just in myself, but in the way I related to others. My relationships with my family and friends shifted. I was more present for them, more patient, more understanding. I wasn't carrying the weight of shame or guilt anymore. I felt lighter, freer, and more connected to the purpose I had been shown. And that's what I want for you too. Look, I know life can be tough, and it's easy to feel like we're stuck in a cycle of mistakes or guilt. But I want you to hear me clearly. You are not alone. There is nothing you've done that can separate you from God's love. I was once in your shoes, feeling like I was too far gone, too broken to be redeemed. But what Jesus showed me, and what I want to share with you, is that no one is beyond his reach. His love is bigger than any mistake, and he's always there, waiting for you to take that first step toward him. It's not about being perfect. It's about choosing to start, choosing to trust him with your heart. Every day is a new chance to choose him over the distractions, the temporary fixes that never really satisfy. True peace, true fulfillment comes from aligning your heart with his will. The world will tell you to chase after things that leave you empty, but I promise you, the love and peace that Jesus offers is unlike anything this world can give. So if you're struggling today, if you feel trapped in cycles you can't break, I want you to know that there is hope. You don't have to do this alone. Jesus is always there, ready to walk with you, to guide you, and to help you heal. It's not about being perfect, it's about surrendering, trusting him, and knowing that his grace is enough. I hope my story has helped you see that you're not alone in your struggles, and that there's always a way forward with Jesus by your side. Take that step. Trust in his love. You deserve it, and I believe you can find the peace and freedom that comes from walking with him. If this message resonated with you, and you're ready to take that first step toward change, drop a comment below with the phrase, "Permit me your grace, Lord," to let us know you're ready for transformation. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you can stay connected with more stories and inspiration. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. Until the next video, see you tomorrow on Daily Faith channel.